Hey everyone, for today's Rogue Thursday, I'll be playing Hop Zacian. This deck can easily attack on its first turn if you go second, and can knock out Pokemon up to 120 HP or less with a single hit from the Zacian. If you're looking for a good and fun rogue deck, then I highly recommend trying Zacian. Now, as for the key cards, you have Zacian himself, with its Insta Strike attack, doing 30 damage at base and then doing 30 more damage. We easily can use this attack to provide early pressure with a 230 HP base as well. It's not going to get one shot by most cards, especially not early. We also have a secondary attack, the Brave Slash, doing 240, which we use occasionally just to try to one shot the bigger EXs. Other than that, we also run the Hop's Cramorant, which is perfect as the go-to in case Zacian gets knocked out, because it has Fickle Spitting. It does 120 damage for 1 energy, and if your opponent doesn't have exactly 3 or 4 prize cards remaining, it does nothing. So it can only be done if your opponent only has 3 or 4 prize cards remaining. That's the hard part about the deck right there, is managing that. But we do have ways of buffing our Hop's Pokemon up, like Hop's Snorlax, which has the extra helpings ability that makes it so that way then all Hop's Pokemon do 30 more damage to your opponent's active Pokemon. So this allows our Zacian to get up to 60 just by having the Snorlax on the field, or Cram go up to 150. But we're not done there. We also have cards in the trainer section that I'll go over that also buff up that damage as well. Other than those two attackers, the Cramorant and the Zacian, we also have a 2-2 line of Archaludon just as a backup, along with a Bloodmoon Ursaluna. Just something to come in at the very end of the game that can one-shot most things, so that way then we can easily get the last 2 prizes that we need for game. As for the trainers, we are running Hop's Bag, which is just the in-archetype version of Buddy Buddy Poffin. This doesn't just hit 70 HP Pokemon, it hits any Hop's Pokemon. So this is your go-to when you're doing your Arven if you need to find more Hop's Pokemon early. We also run the Choice Band, which basically makes our Hop's Pokemon attacks free, as long as they cost 1. So it also increases their damage by an extra 30. So that by itself, along with the Snorlax, is 60 extra damage for both of our attacking Hop's Pokemon. But we also run 3 copies of Postwick, which allows it to get an extra 30 damage on our Hop's Pokemon as well. And that's how we hit the 120 threshold with Zacian's first attack, and how we hit 210 damage with our Cramorant in a single hit. Other than that, our A-Spec is the Prime Catcher, and we are upping our number of bosses up to 3. So we also run 1 Turos for the Archaludon, just something to get it off the field if need be, if it's taken too much damage, and 1 Counter Catcher as well, as just to go with the gust effects. For the energy, we run 3 Jet Energy and 6 Metal Energy. The 3 Jet come in clutch very often. A lot of the times, your opponents are going to try to just lock something with a lot of retreat cost into the active, especially Gardevoir will do that. So Jet Energy is our main way, aside from Latias EX, to be able to move all of our Pokemon, since most of them are basics. So without further ado, please leave me a comment. Tell me what your thoughts about Zacian is, if you've ever played the deck, and hit that subscribe button. We just hit a little bit over 100 subscribers, so it means a lot to me. And without further ado, I got 3 games for you guys today, and we'll go on to the games. Alright, so game number 1. We start off pretty okay. I mean, we don't have our main attacker, our Zacian, so that's kind of bad. We do wish that we had a better hand here. We don't really want to see our Ursaluna and our Fez right now. The Postwick is pretty good if we get it down and we get a Zacian down, but we are up against Guardy, and they got the TM Evo, so they're definitely going to be able to get a Gardevoir EX online next turn. So let's see, how are we going to deal with this? So we're hoping to find a Zacian off the top. That would be huge. And we find the Arven, so that's perfect. That actually gets us there, because now we can get the Choice Band, we can get the bag. We're going to be able to use this bag. We can grab another Cramorant while we're at it, just in case they want to get cheeky and they find a way to get this Screamtail back up. Because then we would be able to at least still have a Cramorant on the field. And then here, we're just going to hit for 120. So we didn't really need to put down the Post-Wick right now. We probably should have held it, so that way then later on we can use it when we need it, especially because they have the stadium bump here for the Artisan. But it's not looking too terrible right now. So they do have a Gardevoir EX. They do play down a Monkey Dory as well. So then here they go research. They get a Drifloon down. They get a Nest Ball. So they're probably going to grab, yep, the Mew EX. They're most likely going to want to save that last spot on their board for another Monkey Dory if they can, and they just pass. So I guess they don't have enough energy in Grave just yet. I think they only have like one Psychic in Grave. So here we're just going to play out the Fez, and then we're going to Iono. Just see if we get a better hand, which we do. So here we're just going to attach. We could just hit for 90 here. We also have a ability to be able to knock out the Drifloon if we really want to. So I'm really debating about that. We also could just knock out the other Kirlia, but I'm just going to swing, deal 90 to this Gardevoir, and then I'll put 30 on the Monkey Dory. So now they're faced with the decision this coming turn, where who are they going to take the 30 damage off? So if they take it off of the Gardevoir, then that's going to be better for us, because then we can just bring up the Monkey Dory that has 30 on it and we can knock it out. Or if they take it off of the Monkey Dory, then we just get to put even more damage on their Gardevoir. So here they counter catcher up our Snorlax, thinking that they will have like a little bit of time to be able to still like work on their board. But this is the reason why we play things like Jet Energy as well. But we do have two different options here. So we can either hit for another 90 into this Gardevoir, or we can just use our Ace Spec and be able to knock out this Monkey Dory, leaving them one less thing that we have to worry about. So here we do knock out the Monkey Dory, we throw another 30 damage on the other Monkey Dory, putting them into a similar position again. So here they are going to remove 30 damage. Let's see, so they move it off of the Gardevoir and they throw it onto the Zacian, so that's okay. They do find their Shaman though, so we really need to get rid of that Shaman. Otherwise, our Zacian's attack is just not doing too much here, so they do another counter catcher to gust up the Snorlax again. And then here they're just throwing a little bit of damage onto their Drifloon, and I think that they're probably just going to retreat here. So what are they going to retreat into? They go into the Shaman, so they're just going to give it up. Cool, so we get Post-Wick off the top. That's huge. So here we're going to attach the Choice Band real quick. And then we're just going to use this Jet Energy. That way then we can get the Zacian back up. So this 30 damage doesn't really matter right here, because it's just going to get blocked by Shaman ability, but we do get the Shaman off the field. So here I was just looking at their graveyard, trying to figure out exactly how many cards they have used. So they've already used a couple counter catchers, so we don't really have to worry about that too much anymore. And they do have a little bit of energy left in Grave. So here they are going to be able to... Oh no, they just retreat into the Drifloon. So they're going to be able to get a knockout with this Drifloon, I think. Yeah, because they're able to go up to 60 damage on the Drifloon right now, which means that they're doing 180. So they do get the knockout, but we now have double cram to follow it up. So that's the reason why I really love this Zacian deck and think that it's still really good, because you're poking a lot with your Zacians. You're taking early knockouts with them too. And especially in like Gardevoir matchups, you're poking for a decent number. You know, you're hitting for 90 or you're hitting for 120 most of the time. So you're able to one-shot most of their attackers, and you're able to one-shot like their Monkey Dories. So that way then once they do get rid of the Zacian, you just have double cram to go after like their Mew EX, or if you got an early attack on their Gardevoir, be able to get rid of that real quick. So here, we did knock out their Drifloon, and now it's up to them to find a way to get rid of our Crams. They have to get rid of our Crams, or they have to knock out our only two-prizer on the field, which is the Fezandipiti. So you want to make sure when you're playing this deck as well, don't overcommit too many two-prizers on the field, because all it takes is your opponent to just gust up one of them and just immediately knock it out, and now they could be down to 2 prizes left, and your Crams are just sitting there taking up space. So you gotta find the right balance. That's why like Fez is pretty much the only EX aside from Zacian that I would bench, and you only really want to bench one at a time. So here they do just KO with the Gardevoir. We can just play down the Postwick. We're hitting for a whopping 210 for game. Alright, so game number 2, we're up against Goldengo. So here our hand's looking a lot better than it was at the start of game number 1 against the Guardy. So here we can use the Hop's bag, and we can grab like a Snorlax plus the Zacian. That way then we have those two ready. We could manually attach the Metal Energy as well. Oh, we found another Hop's bag. Alright, so here we're definitely going to grab the Snorlax and the Zacian, but we're also going to just prize check a little bit, see how many of the choice bands we have, things like that. So here we're going to use the other Hop's bag as well, just get double cram down. And then we'll Iono them. We could have just researched that hand away, but I feel like Iono would have been a little bit better. And then here we're able to just go straight into the Zacian. We're able to get a little bit of damage down, throw a little bit of damage on one of the Gimme Ghouls, because we really want to get the Goldangos down by at least 50 HP. That way then we can one-shot with our Cramorants. So here they hit us with a Iono, which that's okay. So we find a Snorlax, which we're definitely not going to bench. So later on we can use that for Ultra Ball fodder. We found another Hop's bag. We're probably not going to use that either, but the Choice Band, the Iono, and the 2 energy is pretty good. So here they are just going to attach the balloon. They could go back into one of the Goldengos right now. It doesn't look like they have enough to be able to get lethal, but here they just give us one of the Gimme Ghouls. So here I'm going to attach the band. I'm thinking about attaching the other one, that way then we can one-shot, so we are going to do that. And then here I could Iono them, but I'm just going to swing. I'm going to throw another 30 damage. I'm thinking about putting it on the other Goldango, but I want to make sure that I can at least knock out one of these Goldangos if it comes up to attack. So here they do bring up the healthy one. We also attached a metal energy to our other Cram. We could have just attached to the Zacian, but I am too afraid that they're just going to knock out our Zacian in one shot this following turn. So here they do use the Turo. They heal that Goldango that was on the field that had some damage, so that kind of stinks. That nullifies our last two attacks as far as the spread damage goes. And then they do get a Scizor down. So Scizor, we don't really have to worry about too much in this matchup because we don't really run too many Pokemon with abilities. We got like Snorlax, Latias, you have Ursaluna, and Fez. And then, yeah, you also have Archaludon, but you only really ever see like 2, 3 at most of those on the field. Here, we do play the Hops bag. We do get down a Zacian, though. And then we just researched away the rest of that hand. There was no point in keeping it, because later on we can go into Archaludon, get some of that energy back. And then here, we just hit for 90, so we make sure that next turn, if they do knock out our Zacian, then we're able to go straight into a Cramorant and be able to knock out this Goldango. And we were able to put some more damage on their, what was a Gimmighoul that they turned into a Goldango now. So everything's looking really good here. We also have the counter catcher too. So that is really important right now in this matchup because we're on odd prizing. So there's a higher chance that we're going to be able to use counter catcher compared to most games, because usually you want to try to get 2 knockouts as early as possible with Zacian before you go into your Crams. But here we're just going to build up this Zacian in the back line with these energy, because if I ever find another choice band, because I know that I have one more in my deck, I know that there's one prized and there's one in deck. If I find that one plus another energy, I can do 240 with that Zacian. Here they play the Codebreaker, and then they're just going to stack 2 cards on top of their deck, so they're most likely going to grab their Ace spec here, which most Goldengos are running that Ace spec that searches out one of each type of energy. So yep, they play that. They get all of those energy. Overall, our hand is not looking terrible though, because we also have the Duraludon. So if they do knock out one of our Zacians, which is probably going to be the one that already has damage on it, then we can play down this Duraludon, and at any time, if we find a Ultra Ball or just find a Archaludon itself, we can easily go into that and be able to do 220 damage right away, and force them to have to use a total of 6 energy in order to knock out our Archaludon. So they're already having to invest a lot of energy just to be able to knock out most of our Pokemon. This is just guaranteeing that they have to use even more. So here we're just going to throw up this Cram. We find a Prime Catcher, our Ace spec, so that's really good too. Here I'm thinking I'll just Earthen Vessel away the Squawkabilly. We don't need it in the deck. We only have one more metal, so I'm thinking about putting it down on the Zacian, which I do. And then here, we're able to get the knockout, and we're able to save, more importantly, our other Cramorant. And then we find the Archaludon off of the top too. So unless they have a Gust effect, there's a high chance that we're going to be able to use our second Cram to be able to hit for lethal on this other Goldango. All we have to do is find Postwick, and we'll be able to do that. So if they knock out this Cram, we have the Nest Ball, we can get the Fezandipiti, and then that's going to be able to draw us 3 cards and get us one step closer to finding that Postwick. That's my thought process right here. That's what I'm trying to do. But they have the boss, so they're gonna bring up the Zacian. They definitely have enough energy at this point to be able to knock out this Zacian. And at that point, this is now looking very, very bad for us, because now we have 2 spots on our board that are taken up by blanks, basically. There's nothing that we can really do with these Cramorants anymore, other than use them as fodder if need be. So here, we're just going to put up the Archaludon. We have the Stretcher, but we're going to go into the Archaludon first. Then we'll use a stretcher, we'll get back a metal energy, and this will allow us to at least attack this turn. I'm thinking about using this Nest Ball though, but I'm just going to swing for 220. If they get their Gimmighoul on the field into a Goldango and they have enough energy, then they can easily knock this out, but they need a total of 7 energy, 1 to attach, and then 6 in order to knock it out. So hindsight being what it is, I really think that I should have used the Nest Ball, got the Fez, draw 3, and then hope that I got a Post-Quick just to turn off or stage bump their Levancia, so that way then that's 1 less energy that they could rely on, and maybe there's a chance that we could survive it, but I really doubt it. So here they're just doing even more draws. They have the manual attach, and that is all she wrote for game number 2. So it was very close. This matchup always feels very, very close. So they had 8. That's 400 damage. So here for game number 3, we see a Fan Rotom and a Raging Bolt. So this is another kind of sketchy matchup for us because they're able to just one-shot pretty consistently our Zacian. So we need to be wary about what all we put down on the field in terms of EXs. Otherwise, there's a high chance that we won't be able to utilize our Crams. So here, they did the Fan Rotom. They only got 1 Hoot Hoot, and they threw that up. So here, they also use the Nest Ball. So what are they trying to get here? So they get an Ogerpon, so that's really good if they can keep this Hoot Hoot, but the fact that they manually retreated into the Hoot Hoot means that if I can get a turn 1 attack, then I can easily knock out that Hoot Hoot and stop them from being able to utilize a Noctowl, which is kind of the make or break against Raging Bolt, is just stopping them from getting those free resources. And our hand looks perfect enough that we can do that. So here, we're going to get down this Zacian. We are going to Earthen Vessel, which this is important too, because we know that Archaludon is in our deck and we're going to need it later on. We are going to Earthen Vessel away 1 of the metal and then search out 2, so that way then we can Ultra Ball the other Ultra Ball and a metal and still have a manual attach for our Cram. So that way then our Squawkabilly gets us a completely brand new hand without having to waste anything. Here, we're just grabbing an Ultra Ball for later, and then we also grab the Choice Band, and we already have the Hops bag, and I decide I'm just going to throw down this Fez right now. So here, we're just going to retreat, and we're doing more than enough damage right now to be able to knock out. And we're also able to put 30 damage on their Raging Bolt. So again, counting all of our buffs that we can give to our Cram is able to do up to 210 damage in a single swing. If we have the Stadium, we have the Choice Band, and we have the Snorlax. If we have all 3 of those, it does 210. So you want to try to aim for those numbers when you're playing this. But if you are really wanting the best numbers, then what you're trying to aim for is you're trying to get an extra little 30 damage. You're wanting them to be down to 180 because you can guarantee 180. You can easily find your Choice Bands. You can easily find your Snorlax. That's all you need to be able to get that damage up to 180, so you can do those nice little hits. But here, they are going to be able to knock out our Zacian. We do have the Cram though, and we have the second Cram in our hand too. So here we are also on even or odd pricing. So that's going to be huge too. So if we do a knockout here, it means that our counter catcher in our deck is still live. And that makes it 10 times easier for us too, because that gives us one more opportunity of being able to gust up something at the end of the game to guarantee a 2 prize knockout. So that's the other reason why we also got the Archaludon down right now, or the Duraludon, and we also put a Metal Energy on it instead of putting down the Cram. That way, in case they do just gust up like the Fez and they knock it out, we only have one liability on the field rather than two. Because we already have another liability. We have the Squawkabilly, which is just doing nothing here. So we're definitely just trying to think ahead, trying to play around all the cards that we know that Raging Bolt tend to like to play. They do have a Hoot Hoot down on the field right now. They did just do the Sadas, so there's a high chance that they're going to be able to swing this turn. Their deck is incredibly consistent at swinging as well for decently high numbers. So they usually are able to one-shot most things and just go 2-prizer, 2-prizer, 2-prizer. So here, they're just doing the things that they need to for it. They have a Night Stretcher, most likely to get the fighting energy that they're missing. Nope, they just grab a Grass, so they already have the fighting in hand. And then here they're going to be able to knock out our Pokemon, our little Cram. And I'm completely fine with that. So here we get an Arven off the top, which doesn't really mean anything right now. We are going to just play down this Cram. We're going to attach that Choice Band so he's free. We'll do our draw 3, which is free for us right now because they knocked something out. And then, should I play this Archaludon? So there's a lot of thought when it came to this. So I'm still like, even now looking back at it, I really don't know if that's the right play. Because that gives another liability on the field, and I don't really like that because we do have another Duraludon in hand, so there's a high chance that we could have just left it. If they wanted to get rid of the Duraludon and stop the Archaludon, then that's perfectly fine. It would only cost us 1 prize, but this sets up for the thought that I had, which is I did this solely to kind of put them in a horrible choice where if they do boss up the Duraludon or the Archaludon and they knock it out, they go down to 1 prize remaining, which means that I can play this Bloodmoon Ursaluna and it costs 0 energy to attack. It does 240 damage, and we have multiple ways of bossing up their Raging Bolt, guaranteeing that we can knock that out, and it's going to be incredibly difficult for them to get another Raging Bolt online. So here they do have their A-Spec, so they are going to bring up their Archaludon, Archaludon, and then they bring up their Raging Bolt. So they have exactly enough energy on the field as well to knock out this Archaludon. So this is why I was saying, like, it's incredibly risky, and I don't know if it was the right play to do, because this kind of, like, puts us in a very dangerous scenario. It turns off our Cram, so we're just using it as just a little pivot here. We can play down this Ursaluna. We're going to be able to... We could play down the Postwick. It does stop us from being able to gust up something later on to be able to knock it out for free, but that could possibly be the way to go. And looking back, I do think that that's what we should have done. We should have played the Postwick just to turn off their free extra zone that they're saving. But here we do get that knockout. We're both down to 1 prize card remaining. So now they have to find a Night Stretcher or find their 3rd copy of Raging Bolt. And then they have to have another Sadas and a manual attach of the other energy plus some grass energy in order to be able to knock out our Bloodmoon Ursaluna for game. So here they do Crispin, so that makes me not worried really at all. They still could find the Raging Bolt, but they wouldn't be able to attack with it this turn. So now the thing that I'm worried about is solely, well, they have the Baby Bolt on the field, and that's what I'm worried about. Because if they can get that Baby Bolt swinging for, what is it? They need a total of 4 energy on it, then they would be able to knock out the Cramorant. But I doubt that they'll be able to do that. They would have to be running energy switches and stuff. Here, they do have the Bloodmoon Ursaluna. So now if they have a Gust, then we just lose. So here, they manually attach to their Baby Bolt. And they swing for 240 into our Ursaluna. So because we have our Ace spec, that's going to be game. Because now we just get to do that, we get to retreat for free, and now we can reuse our Bloodmoon Ursaluna attack, and that is game. So I hope that you enjoyed these games. I hope that you enjoy my content. Please leave a like, subscribe for more if you like this type of stuff. I post every Monday, Wednesday, and Saturday. And as always, have a good day.